period. But to have an American leader who is such an inspiration both to us in the United States and to people around the region. So I'm going to ask you just to talk a little bit about that, just my own personal experience watching and in my small way participating in the Obama phenomenon in the United States. It was and what some lessons of that may be. Because I know for me it was just really exciting. When as Suriani mentioned, I worked on the National Security Council for President Clinton, which is the president's foreign policy staff. And when in the very, very beginning of the campaign season, it was announced, or Barack Obama announced that he was running, and Hillary Clinton announced first, and Barack Obama announced second. For me, I had known a lot about Obama, and I had friends who worked for him, and just hearing him speak, I immediately had this sense, this is the guy. And it was just very, very kind of exciting. But at that time, it just seemed so impossible. And I know that I'm in Asia a lot, and so many people in Asia said, oh yeah, Obama's a great guy, but they're not going to let him win. They are not going to let him win. I always wanted to know, like, who are they? Like, how do I get hold of them? And I wish they had helped me when I was running for office. But there was this feeling that it was impossible, but people just started to get really excited. And I know that one of the things that I would say to people when I was out on the campaign trail speaking for Obama was that as Americans, and this maybe it's obviously not for all Americans, but I should say for me as an American, during those previous 8 years, when I would look in the mirror and see this reflection of the United States that was coming back, and in that reflection were Guantanamo and Abu Ghraib and all of the civil rights issues within the United States, it wasn't a reflection that was familiar to me, because the America that I was living in and experiencing in was a much more idealistic America, an America that was deeply flawed, imperfect, made monumental mistakes, but was striving to be better, striving to build something that was inclusive. And so when Obama came and started using that language, I think people got very, very excited. And one of the very interesting things about the American system, which is it's flawed in the sense that we have basically a 2.5 to 3 year campaign period for the presidency, and so you have to start years and years in advance. You have to raise millions of dollars, and people have always said that those structural issues are barriers to entry. And one of the really exciting things about Barack Obama, because had there been an election on day one when he entered the race, he wouldn't have done anything. But it was those very things that seemed like impediments, this very, very long campaign period, which it seemed like, well, you have to raise a lot of money to participate, and you can get knocked out early so easily by people who have a stronger infrastructure. He was able to turn those things into a real benefit. So the long campaign period, it was great because people didn't really know him, and particularly the way our primary structure works is that there are certain states, Iowa and New Hampshire, that vote first. And so Iowa is the state that votes first, which is over 90% white state. And so again, if you can win, if any candidate wins Iowa, they're in a really great position because they have a lot of momentum going into the other primaries. And one of the things, one of the challenges for Asia that I see is that, as in any country, there is a very, very strong pull of dynastic politics. And certainly the United States was formed as a reaction against this concept of hereditary monarchy, and there are a lot of structural issues in the United States that are designed to prevent that. But had we had Bush 1 and then Bush 2, and Clinton 1 and then Clinton 2, the sense was that we would have gotten into a more dynastic model. And even in the dynastic model, there are some great people. I mean, the Nehru-Gandhi dynasty in India has had some excellent leaders. But there really is something to be said about the churn of politics. That someone like Barack Obama is really coming out of nowhere in these, and every society has Barack Obama's waiting in the wings. Every society has scores of Barack Obamas waiting in the wings, but the structural challenge is how can all of us, how can every society build a structure that can allow those kinds of people to emerge. The second thing that I think was very inspiring about the Obama campaign is challenging of axioms, and that's still happening now, because there are certain axioms in every political system. You say, oh yeah, this group always votes this way, or this issue can never be addressed because it's so difficult and people aren't willing to ask the tough questions about health care or labor rights or whatever. And one of the things that Obama did, which again, I think it gained him a lot of support, was to say, no, we can talk honestly and we can talk squarely about these kinds of issues. And there was a critical turning point in the campaign. I don't know if all of you followed this, but there was the pastor, the minister at Obama's church in Chicago. The videos came out and were posted on YouTube of this minister who was saying all kinds of things, damn America, and just a lot of things that were outside of mainstream political views. And there was there was a strong call on Barack Obama to disavow this minister, as actually Oprah Winfrey, who had been a member of that church, had done because of the statements that this minister had made. But instead of doing that, and I personally was really concerned about this, what Barack Obama did was he stayed up all night and he wrote a speech, which was a major speech on race. And I will say I thought it was a major mistake tactically when I was watching, because my own view, and in retrospect I was wrong, was that the very fact of electing Barack Obama was a statement about race, and that by making the campaign about race, it had the potential to alienate people. But that was an axiom that I had, and it turned out that it was wrong. And I think that was something that was just really remarkable. And I think that it, obviously, you're probably all thinking this has some relevance here in Malaysia. But by just speaking openly and honestly from the heart, it didn't, rather than cutting off dialogue, it created a whole new opportunity for dialogue. And there was a national discussion about race in a very healthy, respectful, open way that followed from that. So I could go on and on about Obama, but I do think, though, that just coming back to my original point about leadership is that, one, every society has Barack Obamas. Every society has inspiring leaders who are some of the people who we know. But there are a lot of people who we don't know, and that's all of our challenge, is how do we reach out to those people? How do we find those people? How do we nurture those people? You talked about different skills and different forms of intelligence, and every society has those kinds of people, and they're the write-off people who get written off because they're not part of some establishment, or they're just, I mean, like Barack Obama. I mean, he was not part of a lot of things that one would think you'd have to be in order to get ahead. And so, as we, both in the United States, but all of us in the Asia Pacific community, work to face these incredible challenges that, as I mentioned before, really are coming down the pike for all of us, I think these preliminary lessons of leadership, and the lessons of leadership that we're trying to address through Asia 21 initiative, that our Asia 21 community have asked us to discuss in our forum tonight, and just that every person in this room is a leader in some way and in some capacity. And the challenge for all of us is to ask ourselves, what kind of leaders do we want to be, for whom, and to what end, and really push ourselves to achieve that. So with that, would like to hand it back to Suryani. So thank you all very much.
Thanks, Jamie. You've given us a lot of food for thought. Among some other things, I like the kind of points that you've made about how new leaders need to find various levels of creativity to solve old and as well as new problems.